Crockett and Tubbs get mixed up in some sordid family secrets on today's Miami Vice. Junk Love was directed by longtime TV veteran Michael O'Herlihy, who worked on everything from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Star Trek in the 60s, to MASH and Gunsmoke in the 70s, to The A-Team and Magnum P.I. in the 80s, and much, much more. If it's a foundational building block of your childhood television memories, odds are pretty good O'Herlihy directed it. This episode was written by Julia Cameron, who used to be married to Martin Scorsese, but who, far more importantly, is the author of the best-selling creativity guide, The Artist's Way. This episode is particularly cold and brutal, which is just the way I like my Miami Vice. Vice is preparing to raid a brothel run by a former smuggler-turned-pimp named Ivory Jones, who, in one of Miami Vice's signature demented bursts of casting, is played by legendary jazz trumpeter Miles Davis. When a patron gets into a violent scuffle with a sex worker, Crockett and Tubbs burst in and arrest them both. The sex worker is a beautiful young woman named Rosella, who is strung out on drugs and loopy as all hell. Upon being taken into custody, she breaks down and sobs. In a panic, she begs the police not to notify her benefactor, a powerful smuggler named Juan Carlos Silva, played by Jose Perez. Rosella claims to despise Silva and says she was working in Ivory's brothel to hide from him. Rosella is played by Ely Pouget, who gives a very cool, very interesting performance. Rosella is a tragic, drug-addled wreck, and every ounce of Pouget's performance, from her posture to her unsteady gestures to her wandering eye movements, is infused with unstable misery. Vice develops a plan to use Rosella to take down Silva. Tubbs is strongly opposed to the idea, believing her addictions make her behavior too erratic, but Crockett, who has never met a tragic mess he didn't like, wants to give her a chance. So Rosella returns to Silva, who rapes and abuses her to the ironic strains of Wang Chung's True Love off their 1983 Points on the Curve album. When Rosella threatens to turn Silva's young protege Roberto against him, Silva retaliates by having Roberto murdered. An undercover Crockett snags Silva's attention by bidding against him on a luxury yacht at a boat auction. Crockett and Silva flirt a bit by sending champagne to each other, and then Silva invites Crockett and Tubbs to a party at his mansion. Silva is currently in the market for a new protege, having just blown his old one to bits, and it's clear he's looking to Crockett to fill that role. Silva's party is appropriately cocaine-fueled and decadent. While Brian Ferry's Slave to Love plays, Crockett tries to get to the bottom of Rosella's obvious misery. She insists she can't leave Silva again, despite his obvious mistreatment of her. When Crockett presses for an explanation, she says, "I'm afraid you wouldn't like me very much if I told you." Later, she lets it slip to Silva that she'd been working in Ivory's brothel, so Silva has Ivory murdered. Contrite, Rosella tells Gina and Trudy she's worried Silva will try to kill Crockett next because Silva thinks she's romantically interested in him. Silva overhears this conversation and realizes Crockett and Tubbs are cops. So Silva asks Crockett and Tubbs to do a drug run for him, but it's all a big setup. While they're out in Crockett's speedboat in the middle of the water, Silva overtakes them and threatens to gun them down, in a scene scored to Robert Plant's Little by Little off his 1985 Shaken and Stirred LP. Silva tells Rosella he's willing to spare their lives just to show her how much he loves her. He hands Rosella his gun, and Rosella points it at him and says, "Goodbye, Daddy." And then we cut to the end credits before we actually see Rosella shoot her abusive rapist boyfriend, who, we all just found out, is her father. This is a grim and nasty and highly effective episode. I like to think of this one as the do-over for last season's The Little Prince. Both Junk Love and The Little Prince start from a similar premise. Crockett and Tubbs use the troubled and drug-addicted child of a rich and dangerous criminal to take down the father. Whereas The Little Prince really didn't unlock the potential of that concept, resulting in kind of a dreary and half-formed episode, Julia Cameron's script for Junk Love goes straight for that incestuous rape angle, and the end result is brutal. It's an episode that shows how the world of Miami Vice is gorgeous and glamorous on the outside with a sordid and violent interior. I'm giving this one 4 flamingos. Next time, Link from the Mod Squad will try to turn Tubbs into a zombie, which goes about as well as you'd think. Until then, you can pass the time by subscribing to my channel or finding me on Twitter so we can chat about Miami Vice, and I will see you then. Thank you for joining me. Ciao.